believe. You have to believe that you can do it, and you can do anything. Did you know that?
Yeah, I
Not
like
true.
TT believe.
Can't do anything.
No, not everything.
Well, not.
I could jump into a canoe.
Gosh, you keep saying that. Don't jump into canoes, people. It's terrible.
Okay, well, spawning up here in the top right, we have our red Terran player just coming off of his loss in that other series. It's the red Terran player, Future.
And his opponent, lower left-hand side, having the distinct pleasure of having faced Neeb in the first round. It is Epic. And it's weird because Future had a great series, I thought, against Jon Stowe. Takes it really 1-0, looks really good, and then almost beats him the next 2 games, but didn't quite get there.
It's so funny, because he said like he wasn't that concerned about trying to beat Jon Snow. He was expecting to lose to him. So that kind of is weird to me because he knows that eventually, even if he ends up beating Epic here, he's going to have to face off versus Jon Snow again in the kind of decider match. But he did put up a really good fight. And now I think that Future is probably going to be a bit favored here. Epic is a very talented player, but I think Future is the guy that everyone has their eyes on.
He's going to have to face Jon Snow as a Fear Dragon. You're already counting him out against Eve. Wow.
Oh, man.
John, I'll let you know, Jon Snow, when you watch this VOD later.
Hold on.
Poppy Jeff and Control Robinson here.
I did a great interview with Wax Angel where I gave Jon Snow a solid 15% chance versus Neeb.
All right, that's pretty kind of you.
Yeah.
I suppose. But this proxy double barracks, we should make mention of it. It's not scouted. There's no SCV out on the map, if I'm not mistaken. And Epic is getting that factory about to be finished, so it's going to be a question of does Future wait for, no, he'll hold the phone, just going for it.
Okay, well, Reaper revealing itself this early on is already going to set off a couple of alarm bells. Reaper going to be moving back up into the main base. Epic just going to sit back at home safely while he gets up that first Hellion and oftentimes follows it up, I believe, with that Cyclone. Okay.
All right, this is getting rather North American here. It's spots. He's going to land it. Is it so the SCVs can't be pulled there, maybe?
I think it's so we can pick off the supply depot and hop up that ramp for quick reinforcements, but he's losing also a lot of build time.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, even if you get the depot, you did a proxy double barracks, and you're now floating both of them. He's just out of it.
Okay.
Kills nothing so far.
Well, I mean, maybe in his mind, if you land the barracks next to the supply depot, you'll get extra supply for your barracks. It's like an add-on.
I don't think that's what he's thinking, Fear Dragon. No, he's not making a Marine, a cheeky Marine here. It got weird. It got really, it's like not even a scouting Marine. Yeah, he's going to cancel it.
Yeah.
Can we get a look at the loss tab?
Okay. Well, that's our income advantage, and actual units lost, only 1 worker's killed off.
That's much ado about nothing. Do you know what that's from, Fear Dragon?
That is from... Isn't that much ado? Isn't that actually what it's from? Much ado about nothing.
Yeah. Do you know who did that? Who wrote that and everything?
Shakespeare?
Very good, Fear Dragon.
Yeah.
I'm testing you.
Wow.
Making sure the American school system hasn't completely failed us. You passed. This time. You're still jumping into canoes, though.
I mean, successfully, though, so...
Well,
maybe you just...
We don't know that. This depot battle, by the way, rages on.
I know. I mean, the barracks is doing a nice job spotting that high ground. He's keeping these Reapers alive. The funny thing is...
Let him kill it.
Neither side can actually jump down to the other side with the Reapers, because...
It's weird watching these superpowers clash, because the Reapers auto-heal, depots can be repaired, nothing's dying, and they just go back and forth over this meaningless battle.
Yeah, but I mean, Future did manage to transition out of this behind all of that Reaper aggression. As soon as that barracks lifted up, he actually started throwing down things like the factories, getting up a Raven pretty much on point with Epic, so... As much as I do feel like Future is a bit further behind, I don't think it's so far behind that it's actually unreasonable.
No, I think they've pretty well reset. I mean, to your point, there's one player slightly ahead of the other, but for the most part, this barracks will get a little bit of a scout. It dies. It sees a similar composition. Well, similar pathways to that composition. He's going to try to break up this ramp. And he does get a couple of grenades off, pushes us back. The 1 tank against the 2 Cyclones not favorable. Here comes the reinforcements, and so they have to back away.
But he does kill off an SCV building command center, kind of delaying that a little bit, the 3rd command center, and also killing off a lot of Marines. Wow. Surprisingly effective push forward.
Is it, though? This is my favorite part about TvT is you see these battles, things are exploding, stuff's getting delayed, and you look at the spot, you're like, no, it's the same. No, it's the same. They killed stuff, they lost stuff, it's the same.
Well, third base on the way for Future is not too much further behind his opponents now that it's been slightly delayed. And like you said, to your point, it is a fairly even game at this point. Both have Ravens available to use that kind of interference matrix on each other's siege tanks, and I'm actually pretty grateful that we're not going to box wars, as the Cyclone versus Cyclone battles are always a bit of a treat, but thankfully we're not getting into that one today. Or
There's
at least
still
right
a
now.
lot of TvT to get into, so hang on. It could happen. You just have to believe, but Future's going to try to keep maintaining the initiative, push out here, maybe delay that third a little bit longer, take a favorable position, start to siege this gas perhaps.
Yeah.
Why not?
I guess that is going to be able to pick off maybe a few workers here and there, even delaying the second gas geyser, which is very annoying. Might cut into some of that factory production time, as well as even some of the upgrades if Epic's looking to go into that soon. Might be able to use the interference matrix with the Raven. Oh no, but the Viking gonna be able to shut that down for a bit.
Shutdown's a bit of a strong word. It's at least warding it off.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I guess it's the Cyclones he's respecting a lot here. But he's going to go ahead and go around this, maybe take a better angle, but also cut off reinforcements if they were to be coming. We, of course, know that Future is not. This is just a light investment into some pretty good economic damage. There's the scan to make sure there's not more waiting for him, and he's going to pounce.
All right, and he has more than enough to actually handle something like this. There's the interference matrix, and we're going to end up seeing a pretty quick and solid cleanup over here, as even I think the Raven getting interference matrix there.
Yeah. And it does. It does get thrown off
I feel
there.
like that was worth it, though, to do a little bit of harassment to the refineries and then lose so many units.
Well, he lost a tank and 2 Cyclones, and I think that is the Raven escaping, so he actually didn't lose that much. It's one of those things where did the damage it do kind of pay for those? It's like close. I think it's more of an exchange between the two. But if Epic handles that worse or flips out and is like, I got a counterattack, I'm way behind, then it becomes that thing that just destabilizes him is really worth it. But that's not the case. Epic seems to be grounded fairly well in this matchup so far.
Okay, got a couple of these medevacs out over here for Future, so we can finally start utilizing that stim upgrade he got. Gonna be able to... Actually, I really like that Future's just doing a good job of keeping an eye out on the map, because TvT is oftentimes that very positional-based matchup, and I think Epic's sitting a little bit more in the dark, but gonna start to get a couple of his Marines out on the map.
Yeah, both players definitely kind of paying attention to what you're talking about here, Fear Dragon, where if you do just sit in your base and you don't have at least somewhat of a presence out on the map, that's when that Doom drop lands on your production, that's when tanks get behind a mineral line or something like that, and really bad stuff can happen. So both players just vying for that map position like you talked about, and in doing so, kind of reveals the tech that they're opting for as well, right? So we can see with Epic, it is going to be bio for at least right now. And then on the flip side, we're seeing bio as well for our Red Terran here, Future. I had to check to make sure, because oftentimes I'd be like, it's bio, but then someone's like, no, you idiot, he's making 4 tanks at a time. But nope, it's going to be bio versus bio.
Yeah, just good old Biotank versus Biotank, adding in 1 or 2 of the Ravens. Actually, no, only still got that one earlier Raven from Epic. No more Ravens being produced, which I feel like we've seen some Terran players that really like to add on a lot of Ravens, or at least 3 or 4 of them into TvT and just throw down the interference matrix like crazy.
Yeah.
And then there are some Terrans that are like, nah, just don't need it.
They're hard to micro. They're gas intensive, so they can get a little bit expensive in the army comp as well. And if you mess it up, they're pretty fragile, so they just get popped. Or if you over-invest in the actions of the Raven, but then your Bioforce gets stomped by a bunch of tanks, it can just kind of flip the battle against you. So we're going to have this push out to the tower. Going to reclaim that for himself, does Future. But again, I want you guys to keep your eye on this. The supplies, army, that kind of thing. It's very similar.
Yeah, and right now we end up seeing that Epic is moving forward into the natural. There's an anti-armor missile being used on a lot of these Marines, giving a huge edge. I mean, it's acting like a +3 weapon upgrade right now for Epic's Marines in the Marine versus Marine war. And even the tank war it looks like Epic's going to win out on, but can he deal with the counterattack?
Yeah, both players getting really aggressive at each other's throats right now. And Future's going to push out to try to do some return damage. Just a few Marines remaining here for Epic, but they are on top of that base. Now a bit of an awkward engagement as Future's kind of vying for position here, but there's tanks on the high ground and on the low ground. He's going to pick off that tank on the high ground, though, and then back away and just siege here from the spot.
Yep, I think they're both sort of in a similar position, but a few less Marines available for Epic, and yeah, he's going to just back out of there. He might try and catch his opponent from both sides with the, I guess, his attack of retreating back home.
Yeah, he could drop on top of the tank so the Marines get too far away from it, or just, like you said, attack from multi-angles or cut off reinforcements. So a good choice to pull back as opposed to losing those units.
Yeah, he already got a bit of damage done. Looks like that structure is complete.
Thank you, Fear Dragon.
Space
tabs on that. There we go. There's the full surround.
Yeah.
This force will get destroyed. Keep your eye on how many tanks are lost. It's important that Epic was able to escape with 3 of the tanks from that siege. Meanwhile, Future loses his. So does it necessarily, is it like Colossus in a PvP or PvT? No, it's not like that, but they're pretty important. If one player has a lot more than the other, they are a huge indicator in who's going to win the exchange.
Oh, yeah. I'm also a little bit worried about just how many Marines Future actually has on the defensive right now. He was able to move across the map with a handful of these Marines and get a cancel on one of these bases. Ooh, that is going to pull Epic all the way back home, and it looks like Future might be able to get out of there alive. Oh, that was
hoping for that stim to hold out here, and they do stim their way back home. It is Epic that maintains mid-map control at this point in time, and like Fear Dragon pointed out, that can result in a base getting canceled. So Epic was the one that had to cancel that base. Going to try to do the same here to Future. Another thing too is when you're the aggro player, a lot of times you'll fade out more scan. Wow, really aggressive movement here from Future.
Yeah, and Epic is going to seize the moment, taking out a bunch of these tanks, and all of the tanks, most of the Marines have gone down. There's no way this 4th base gets up safely, right?
You'd think so. For some reason, Epic kind of gave up pursuit. If you chase too far and there's a line of tanks behind that, that's where you can lose your Bioforce. I think he's respecting that. But from this spot, he can stop that 4th from going down and is going to endeavor to do as much. He actually loads up the medevac for a quick little cheeky snipe on that tank, and he does get it.
Okay, I like the Vikings out now from Future because he can at least put some pressure on these medevacs, but there are just so many of them. It's hard to do too much damage with such a low count of Vikings, but the main thing is seizing that kind of air superiority, because now he can start to move into those Liberators, knowing he has a little bit of safety of air, but he's got to make this engagement work first, and oh, he's making it work.
Jeez, both these players just seesawing back and forth, bloodying each other's noses here. This time it's Future that returns the favor, giving chase, and he leapfrogs ahead in supply. They've been kind of at a plus or minus 10 supply differential for a while now, both players doing what they can to disrupt and destroy their opponent, but it's having little effect on that supply so far.
Okay. Well, Future looks like he's going to be the one to move out next. Oh, actually, no, both of them want to move out right now, and they're scanning each other, they're seeing where each other's armies are, and it looks like they're going to be meeting in pretty close to the center of the map.
Yeah. And is he gonna I guess so. He's just staying right here. The tanks doing what they can, but they get just spread out here. Does Future's Bioforce, and he gets a huge victory, killing all those tanks, and once again chasing Epic back, and this time establishing a 40-some-odd supply advantage, and that is significant. So Epic's going to fall back here, but losing all those tanks means it's going to be really hard for him to hold on.
Yeah, what's he going to do from this situation? They both have the 3-3 upgrades, and they both have decent-ish numbers of, I want to say, siege tanks. Oh, no, actually, it's like you said, Future has a decent number of more siege tanks, 4 more siege tanks, and he also has Liberators to work with that can help take out the entrenched positions of Epic, but Epic does still have that 4th base, so if he can try and find a way to make use of that, he was able to deny his opponents for a bit. Another one is floating over, but he still needs some more time to make that work.
Oh, Liberators. Okay. He could have grabbed that spot for himself. He's going to wait for the full force and then use these Liberators, like you said, to win the air superiority battle. He can start to push those tanks back, or he can just pick them off. And from this spot, he can go ahead and even siege that base. Something here from Epic, but it's just a single drop, so it's going to be a nuisance, but this is a tough, tough fight over here for Epic, where he's just out-teched at this point in time and out-positioned.
Yeah, even that one medevac is just constantly detected by the sensor tower, so it's really hard for it to get too much more damage done, because Future should be very much prepared for it. And the siege tank damage is getting a little bit too much. The Planetary Fortress repair is not even quite enough anymore.
Well, a lot of the SCVs are actually getting hit as they repair anyways, so this base is toast. It dies. A lot of SCVs died there as well. And even the drop now does get found, and Future is starting to kind of close that noose around Epic. He's not dead yet. They're on functionally the same number of bases. It's just, to your point, Fear Dragon, I'm really worried about the Liberators for Future with 0 response from Epic so far.
Okay, but Epic looking to maybe do a nice little sandwich. The awkward thing is the reinforcements for Future are about to do the sandwich. It's going to be a double decker cheese. But
yeah, it's like their sandwich is being enveloped by this sandwich, but here comes the battle. The Bioforce trying to spread out and get on top of that tank line, but it's just not doing it. They're going to get pushed back. Massive losses. We're talking about a 60 supply advantage for Future. The tech, the supply, the positioning, it's got to be too much. Epic is going to fall back and kind of think about it for a second, but I think Future says, no, no, no. We got to move on, my friend. You're out of this one.
Yeah, that is a really rough spot. It really looked good for Epic for a moment because the Marines were on top of the siege tanks. That's the dream. But there were just so many siege tanks and there just weren't enough Marines. GG is going to get called. Future secures the first victory.
Really nice back and forth matchup. This is something that if you're an Epic fan, you like to see more of. It's not nearly. He did lose, which is unfortunate for him, but he showed a much better game. And there's moments there where I would say it was Epic that was leading. And in that seesaw back and forth, it was just that he had a couple of bad exchanges, and then when the Liberators showed up, that was kind of lights out. And you kind of foretold this. It's just if you have that slight Viking advantage and the ability to say your medevacs are in trouble, you can't actually challenge my Liberators, well then I'm going to be pushing back your units, I'm going to be grabbing bases, it's just too much. It snowballs.
Yeah, really difficult spot to be put in, but Epic is still going to have an opportunity in game number 2. There's still, like you said, lots of TvT left over, assuming we can at least potentially see Epic take this game. We could even go to a game 3 then, which I'm sure Epic would love to, because remember, this is the lower bracket match. The loser of this match is out of WCS Challenger this season. Their opportunity to kind of shine themselves in the limelight to get that big victory just goes away for a bit.
Yeah, and you got to be feeling for Epic. I mean, first matchups against Neeb, which is rough. Neeb's the king of North America. It's beyond that we start to be like, well, he's not winning every tournament. I mean, that's the kind of pedestal that he's at as well, where we're just like, I saw him only take 4th place at this last tournament, so is he slipping?
He dropped 1 series to Optimus in the past like 15, you know, so maybe he's starting to fade.
Yeah, he's really starting to lose it. And that's the kind of thing you only hear when you're talking about the absolute best of the best. If it's a player that, you know, like I'm not going to name names, but just some of these players that don't have those kind of accolades, you don't measure them in that way. So to get that in the first round is rough. But then Epic had this nice TvT. So in game 2, we're hoping it'd be cool to go to a 3rd game in this series and see what these guys got when the pressure's really on the line. Because keep in mind, we did this earlier too. We're talking about how Epic could be eliminated, Epic could be eliminated. But if he wins this map, all of a sudden, whoop, it flips around all of a sudden. It's Future that's facing elimination.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that Epic was kind of pinning his hopes on this particular match because realistically, almost anybody, especially someone like Epic or even Future, goes in and says, okay, you're facing off versus Neeb first. You're like, look, I'm going to lose this. I'm going to try and do something cheeky. But you're not going to really be too upset with yourself when you lose that. Whereas I think Future actually had such a close series versus Jon Snow. It's one of those things where if you just got dominated, you'd be like, okay, it happens. But the fact that it was close and the fact that you were even ahead in some of those games that you could have won, you're like, this wasn't painful before, but it is now because I could have had it.
Yeah, Nathanius was talking about that too, with just kind of the group dynamic. The way it immediately flushes out in everyone's mind is, could somebody upset Neeb? Sure, but probably not. And then it's the next 3 guys. And to your point, yeah, they were kind of looking to Jon Snow to be that guy that they could perhaps upset. And off that series between Future and Jon Snow, I got to say, he's looking fairly mortal. Future was even ahead, as you said, in a few of those moments. But you know what? That is something to get to in a second, because we are heading to Backwater here as we go into game number 2 of this TvT.
Indeed. We are going to be starting, of course, over here, the bottom right-hand side of the map. Top of the red Terran player sitting up 1-0. It's Future.
And his opponent in the top left-hand side, trailing 0-1, it's the blue Terran Epic. And it was Future that opened up with that cheeky double barracks, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
In this last game. So I kind of like the Dark Shrine from Showtime in our EU bracket. I'm now liking that he opened up with some cheese. It didn't really work out, by the way. It's not like a Dark Shrine. It didn't work out that well, excuse me. It didn't necessarily not work out. But it does put in the back of Epic's mind, all right, Future's capable of anything. He could go any direction here in this best of 3.
Yeah, and the cool thing is both these players know each other very well. They're very familiar with each other. They don't just see each other on the ladder. They see each other a lot in the weekly events. They see each other at the offline events like Cheese at Delphi or Psystorm Cup. So they kind of know a bit about each other's playstyles. And I think most people that play a lot against Future know that Future loves to throw out those kind of cheeses.
Okay.
He loves to throw out the proxy Raxes and just throw his opponent off guard. Sometimes actually to a bit of a fault, where he'll get over aggressive. But I think I like the fact that he's kind of playing out 1 or 2 cheeses here and there, and just kind of then going back to that standard macro.
Yeah, Future, I mean, you've been putting on and kind of covering the North American scene for a while now. So can I hazard to put you on the spot and say, can you tell us a little bit about Epic and Future? I mean, I personally have not seen these guys very much at all.
I mean, I would absolutely love to, Jeff. So Epic is a very funny guy because he was, in a lot of ways, what I think Future is now. Everybody, you ask anyone that knows about the North American scene, they say, who is going to be the next big person? Who's the person that's like rising in skill the fastest right now? Everyone looks and says Future without even like a bit of hesitation. They say, oh, this kid's just became 16, so we can just now start playing in the WCS circuit. So he's a lot like Raynor and Clem, but for North America. And then Epic kind of was that guy 2 years ago, but he just never kind of came to fruition because he just stopped playing for 3-4 months at a time, every like 5 months, because he was focused on school. And he just occasionally comes back and just sort of has that casual attitude towards StarCraft. So it's sort of like the player that you really want to do well. He's a bit disappointing. What is this? Oh, sorry. Okay. For a moment, I saw in the production tab, I saw Command Center, and I saw the proxy. In my mind, I said, why is there a proxy Command Center? That's a starport.
Okay.
That's more normal.
Probably a quick Liberator, if I had to assume.
Yeah, that probably makes a lot of sense. He does have both of his gas geysers, so I think he could maybe go for a Tech Lab and go for a Banshee, but I think Liberator, okay, it is going to be a Tech Lab. Nice
call. A bit of a proxy Banshee here, but we've got the kind of typical back and forth of a couple of a Hellion and some Reapers. It looks like a scene from Mad Max, perhaps, chasing each other back and forth, but then there's the Big Daddy Cyclone shutting it down.
Yeah, Cyclone sort of reigns supreme in the early game stages of TvT, but it's still going to chase down these Reapers, and that's kind of becoming a bit of a feat. Ooh, I like the wall from these SCVs.
Yeah, nice little move there from Epic to kind of mitigate some of the losses there. And importantly here as well, Future does get a full base scout. So again, he trades out 2 Reapers and a Hellion, not necessarily for equal amounts of damage, but he does scout the entire base and see the tech path of Epic and say, you know what? My Banshee is looking pretty good right now. I'm not too worried about stuff.
Yeah, he needs to make sure he gets some damage done, though, because he doesn't have a command center back at home behind this. His starport's on the other side of the map, which just makes things a little bit awkward as it moves into the mid-game, if it does move to that point. And his command center, just now getting started. He needs to get damage done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And actually, it's going to be a Raven here coming out for Epic as well. So the Cloak, not as big of a deal. And I said, ooh, because he's waiting for the second Banshee, which is one of those moves where it can pay off huge or can be the reason why your tech didn't work out that well. Banshees are pretty good about getting guaranteed damage. They're very fast and they hit pretty hard. And while there is a Raven coming out and there are Cyclones, so there is the answer for them, it's a question of how much damage can they get in before the answer comes over.
Ooh,
well, there you go.
Okay.
Yowzers.
I don't know, actually, if this is just a kind of push out, because I've seen a lot of players go for this kind of, I got some Marines, I got some Cyclones, let's kind of push across the map. If this is even part of the reason why he was waiting, but this is going to work out perfectly. This could not work out better.
Well, Future sees it. He's going to push back over here, and he has fairly similar units, so he's kind of delaying and buying time. But the problem is, back at home, the Banshees are starting to rain down destruction, and all Future has to do is hold on, because there's nothing over here that can stop this. And they will just do unmitigated, massive amounts of damage.
The starport isn't even producing units right now. It's building a reactor, so he can't even get out of Viking right now. The Banshees already killed off 11.
Coming home. Cyclone and Raven come home, which, yes, will push this back. But it's one of those things where, I mean, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Let me just put it that way. Epic was just out of position, but coming home means that he didn't get any exchange for the most part. The Banshees continue to have their damage. Like, yes, the Raven and the Cyclones will push them back, but when a Banshee shows up, 2 or 3 SCVs die at minimum.
Yeah, and once again, the Banshee just pokes back in, pulls the Raven and the Cyclones over there, and guess what? There's another Banshee that was made that's in the main base, killing off more SCVs. Future was already up 1-0, Jeff. This is not a game Epic can lose.
I feel like this is one of those kind of showings for Epic where it's like, you know what, that was a rough day. back to the drawing board. Like you said, he's been a good player for a while now, so this is a rough go, but it's all but over. This Banshee is going to stand there and take a fight. Okay, gets a pick off in the main as well. But even just with the softening from those Banshees means the door is open for this. There's a tank, some Marines, and 3 Cyclones, mostly untouched, now at the natural.
Yeah, there's just nothing here to really defend against this. There might be 3 CCs, but there's just no actual units that can fight here. So he's gonna have to fight with the SCVs potentially as the Cyclones get in on top of the tank. Oh, worst case situation. Marines also getting gunned down, and the siege tank splashing, which is just brutal.
Well, Epic's got his back up against the wall, so he's gonna fight valiantly, but this is the death blow. Make no mistake about it. He is down to 18 supply, 4 of which is army. The tank's gonna have time to unsiege and clean up what is left of that army.
When you don't even get the moral victory of like, I can just at least kill this one tank before I die. Nope.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough. Well, I mean, this is, I've got to say, as this is very clearly becoming a situation that I just don't see a way for Epic to bounce back from. Yeah, GG. Future takes a 2-0. But that is also probably a really important way for Future to take it, because think about how close he got versus Jon Snow. You talk about momentum as a pro player. That's how you build momentum going into that final match.
Yeah, a lot of this is a mental game. Some would tell you most of it. So, like you said, to get that momentum, but to get the clean victory and be like, okay, my plan was to beat someone like an Epic there pretty cleanly and then battle it out for Jon Snow, which is us getting ahead of ourselves. Yes. But that has got to be the plan for Future. That being said, I was just about to do the hosting thing. Robbie, you please take it away. I'm sorry.
Yes, I would love to take it away, Jeff. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to hop to a short break while we get our next series set up, which should be a very fun one. It's going to be our winners match of course, Neve facing off versus Jon Snow, arguably the 2 favorite players in this group. Don't go anywhere. You're watching WCS NA Challenger.